and we got married as in the middle of the second quarter of that game. Traffic was awful,
Okay,
but
there's a
I still
problem. You get
say,
married during football season, the first problem.
yeah, absolutely. Thank you. But you know how it is with
Oh yeah,
women. You do
honey
what they
business,
say.
man, honey
You do
business.
what they say. But I will say, I've said forever, we broke the streak because it had been like 2004, I think, was the last time we had beaten Florida. And so that day we broke the streak. College game day was there. The entire wedding party night, we went to the college game day that morning. It was a great time. But yeah, the 2016 season, I'll never forget that. And I definitely won't forget South Carolina. That one was tough. We had an outside shot at the SEC championship game, and then you guys ruined it for us, you and
Well,
Jake. But
that was
it's
a great
okay.
win.
That's all right.
Definitely a top win for me and the Gamecocks. That was big.
Welcome, guys, to the Famous Fair Podcast. I'm your host, Keith. I'm joined by Coach Jesse King and also Coach Bobby Bentley, the head coach of Battleground Academy. A few things on his past. He was a former Presbyterian quarterback. He was the head coach at James Burns High School in South Carolina, where he won 4 state titles. He went from there to be the head coach at Presbyterian, where he was the quarterback at. Then went and was an assistant at Auburn, South Carolina, University of South Florida, and UCF, where he left there, and he was now the head coach at Battleground Academy in Nashville, where he is a one-time state champion. Coach, it's wonderful to have you on with us today. Jesse, you want to start with the first question with
Yeah.
us?
So that the resume speaks for itself, but you can look right behind you, Coach, and see that wall of or shelf of helmets there, and see the resume sitting there behind you. But Coach, first question I want to ask with you: you grew up in South Carolina or Clemson? What were you a fan as
That's
a
a
kid?
tough one, Jesse. And thanks for you and Keith for having me on. Obviously, anytime you get the chance to share about this great game, I'm willing to do it. So, as far as a Clemson Carolina fan, man, growing up, I was a Clemson guy. Played little league for the Duncan Tigers. I was the touchdown scorer. So if he scored a touchdown, our head coach, Coach Westmoreland, would put a helmet decal on our helmet, a tiger paw. So we became Clemson Tiger fanatics. He would take us to the game. Back then, we ran around on the hill, getting to watch Steve Fuller, who was actually from my county, Spartanburg County, Steve Fuller and Jerry Butler running around. So I became a Clemson Tiger fanatic. Later on, I become the head football coach at Burns, and we have 4 football players signed with Clemson: Willie Corn, Xavier Dye, Chad Deal, and Buster Hunter. So again, Clemson Tiger fanatic. Years later, I'm still at Burns as a head coach. I have 3 players: Marcus Lattimore, Nick Jones, and Freddie Brown. Guess who they signed with? Carolina Gamecocks. So now I'm switching over. I'm a Gamecock now. I trained their quarterback, Dylan Thompson. So, the family's starting to wear garnet and black. Well, lo and behold, I get the job at Auburn. Our defense coordinator, Will Muschamp, asked me, let's go home, go to Carolina. So obviously bleed black and garnet now.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it.
I think that a lot of times, especially at a young age, coaches can have a great influence on your life. I had an uncle actually that became a big Alabama fan, had a head coach when he was in high school who was a big Bama fan, even though we're in East Tennessee. And he bled crimson because of that. So, I mean, they can definitely have a huge impact on your life. But, Coach, you played quarterback at Presbyterian. Coming out of college, I'm sure you probably already had the idea that you wanted to be a coach. Did you always want to be a college coach? Was that always the goal, or were you thinking high school, or did you even want to be a coach?
Well, definitely wanted to be a high school coach. My third grade teacher was Miss Linda Korn. She was the wife of our head football coach in town, Bo Korn. From that point on, I wanted to be Bo Korn. I wanted to be a high school coach at my hometown, live in his follow his footsteps, and be the head coach at Burns High School. Got the head coaching job at 25, and I was living my best life. That's who I wanted to be.
That's awesome. So where exactly did the college route come into play? Because you did get, your first head coaching job was at Presbyterian. Excuse me, your first college job in general was at Presbyterian. Um, was it just the alma mater that motivated you? What exactly pushed you to make that leap from high school to college?
Well, it definitely was it was intriguing. We had won 4 state championships at the time at Burns. And I kind of wanted a challenge. I thought it'd be great. PC meant a lot to me, being that I was the only guy in my family tree pretty much to go to college. It's when I was a first generation guy, man, and so I wanted to be the head coach at Presbyterian when I was offered the job. And I probably didn't handle it the right way. Probably didn't attack it the right way because I didn't really have any intentions of being a head coach in college or even a college coach. Didn't have as many resources maybe as I had when I was in high school. We had 4 washer and dryers at high school. We go to college, we got 1, and it was hard for me. I didn't handle it right mentally, and didn't do a good job of handling it, and honestly didn't enjoy it as much as I should have. I enjoyed the players, I enjoyed my role, but just didn't do a good job handling it the way I should have professionally. And it was a great experience for me. It kind of gave me an itch to be a college coach, but
Yeah.
I just wasn't as happy as probably I should have been.
It's crazy that you say you had less resources going from high school to college, but I think that just kind of speaks, and I'm sure it's changed a little bit now at this point in time. Um, but that really shows the difference in resources at the FCS level versus the FBS level, or even just a G5 FBS level. It's kind of bizarre, the differences there. And I know as you go on further down, D2, D3, like the resources get less and less,
Yeah, no
obviously.
doubt.
But
And honestly, Coach, I don't think we make enough. Like guys like Mike Ayers at Wofford College back when he had it rolling. Those
mhm,
guys at Furman. Well, we're so familiar with them back being from the Carolinas. But like Jess Simpson, a guy that does what he does at UT Martin, Brent Dearman at UNA. I mean, Jeff Ferris, Austin P. Those guys at that level, man, they're miracle workers. I'm telling you,
yeah,
do what they do with some lack of resources overall. I'm not saying in some areas, but in some areas they don't have as many resources, and they do a phenomenal job, man, with managing in it and not
yeah.
letting it distract them. I think they're miracle workers. I really do.
Well, I think in the day and age now with the transfer portal, NIL, and everything, trying to build a program with limited resources that they have, and then some, their top tier talent is getting scalped,
Yeah,
now by some of the bigger programs. I respect them too. Like big props to those guys for staying with it and still remaining competitive.
exactly. They
Um,
do a great job, man. They really do.
Coach, you in your resume you went to Auburn and South Carolina. You've worked with Coach Gus Malzahn and Will Muschamp. How did that come about, and what's one lesson that you would learn from each of those that still influences you today?
Okay, I got to know Gus Malzahn. We would do these 7-on-7s down in Hoover, Alabama. It was a big national tournament. A lot of us became friends, kind of think alike. Gus went on out to Tulsa. I went out to study with him for a week. We became good friends. Gus hired me at Auburn. Um, just appreciate him giving me the opportunity from an old high school coach to be able to do it at the SEC level. And then Will Muschamp was our defensive coordinator at Auburn, as I said earlier.
mhm.
And Gus had hired him as D coordinator. He gets the head job at South Carolina. He asked me to come with him. At the time, I didn't even know what position I'd have. I just trusted him. I knew I was going to be on staff, and I took off and went back home. And having 22 years as a high school coach in that state, it was awesome to be able to come back. Being around Gus, I'd say the thing that I learned the most about football from him and Gus's tutelage in general would be to run the same plays over and over. Gus, he's going to not vary off what he does. He's going to do what he does. It doesn't really matter what the periphery says. He's going to do what he does, and he's going to get good at what he does, and that's why he's so efficient in his offense and in his ability to be a head coach. I'd say Will Muschamp, being around him at that level and being in his staff meetings, is his intensity, the way he attacks everything
Oh yeah.
in a detailed plan and just really getting after it every single day.
Yeah, I definitely see that. I have a lot of respect for both those guys, but you mentioned the intensity from Coach Muschamp. One of my favorite clips is the clip of him and Nick Saban when they were together. I think it might have been LSU. I can't remember if it was LSU or Bama,
It was
but
LSU.
a kid, made a pretty bad mistake and got a penalty for it. And Nick Saban's, tearing into the kid. Well, then here comes Will Muschamp with the headset flying off, and he's going at it too. Very, very intense and very good and detailed at both, what they do.
Yeah,
Both
and just
guys.
intense, especially in the plan. If you only saw Muschamp do it when he had already went over something.
Yeah.
It's just so intense in doing what the plan entailed or the plan designed for, and you just learn a lot from that with that intensity and the attention to detail.
Yeah. No doubt. Um, Coach, you've coached a lot of outstanding players over the years. You mentioned even in high school, just the guys that you had that went on to play at Clemson, South Carolina, and things. But then you've also coached at the cream of the crop in the SEC. Was there a particular player that maybe made the biggest impact on your coaching career, or taught you the best lesson moving forward?
Jesse, that's a great question. I'm not sure if one particular one did. Obviously, we've coached some really good ones, man. I mean,
Yeah,
Rico Dowdle, I could go on down the list, and he's probably one of the best human beings I coached. But I would say some of the guys who maybe not even catch the headline, like a Brandon Sherrill. He probably never played a down for us at Burns, but he was at every workout. He signed up for the Marines after high school, and fighting for our country, and getting a Christmas card from him, and having a guy like we had this year, state championship season, a record book performance, team. Our offensive guard, Jackson Harlan, didn't care to play college football, didn't care to be recruited, but he's going to Furman University and a major in neuroscience. So, he's going to be a
that's
guy that's
awesome.
going to be a change agent in our country. And it was because of some of the things he learned in football. And then also guys like Blake Elder, good football player, went to college, won a national championship at App State, but also guys like Garrett Reynolds and Donnell Stanley, who are on our staff now. Donnell was with us at South Carolina. Garrett Reynolds was with me at USF. The impact maybe they even have on me watching them at practice today. Garrett coaching our receivers and Donnell coaching our offensive line. I get motivated by them because they're such good young coaches, and they have a little bit of me in them, but I also have a lot of them in me because
Yeah,
I get to act young being around them. So I'm excited about every day being able to work with guys like them, and just was blessed to have a lot of good football players that honestly were probably good without, regardless of my coaching. I was a better person being around them and their ability to be a pro even before they were pros.
yeah, that's awesome. Never forget those moments and those stories.
Hey, Coach, what was it like coaching your son Jake at South Carolina and getting to see him develop as a college quarterback?
Sometimes we have to pinch ourselves, man. Getting the ability or getting the chance to coach in the SEC, to be able to coach in the SEC at your hometown university, um, your home state university, and then to be able to have your kid, your son on the team, much less the starting quarterback. He threw that first touchdown pass against UMass, and you just shed a tear on the sideline. You kind of hide, you're trying to pull your head over your eyes. It's just it's kind of surreal, but more importantly, being able to be with him after the games, because I
Yeah,
know my youngest son now, is all the way up in New Hampshire, and we don't get to see him after every game and be, in the hallway after a game, and you see your parents. That's awesome, man, and I missed that with Brooks, and I missed it with Chase, who was playing at Rutgers, and Schuler playing at Murray State. You don't get to go to every game, and with Jake, you were always there, so it was awesome. It was awesome to see him be around his teammates. He met his wife, who played volleyball at Carolina. My daughter-in-law Courtney, and I say she's the best athlete in the family anyway. So just so much came out of that time we had at the University of South Carolina, and I'm indebted to Will Muschamp and Ray Tanner for hiring me and keeping me around.
so I know you weren't a quarterback coach, you weren't his position coach at South Carolina, but you still were Coach Bentley during that time. how did you balance that relationship between coach and also dad in that moment?
Well, luckily, I was coaching another position, but I did get
Yeah,
to coach him in the Outback Bowl when we played Michigan. We had made a coaching change, and coach put me on the quarterbacks that bowl game season. So those 15 practices, 18 practices we had were probably my best memory there. But coaching running backs and tight ends allowed me to not have to worry about Jake. To be honest with you, I had enough on my
yeah,
plate coaching the running backs, and I had some really good ones. And coaching the tight ends as well. And some of my funnest years in coaching were coaching the tight ends because obviously I would always been a quarterback coach. So when I go to practice, my eyes veer to the quarterback. Let's be honest. But coaching the tight ends and being around those coordinators that I had with Brian McClendon and Kurt Roper and Mike Bobo, I had to stay on my P's and Q's coaching the position that I had to do my job,
yeah,
much less worrying about being a dad, because my son's a quarterback. So
yeah,
you just got to have tunnel vision, I would say, if I was giving advice to somebody having to do it, and not really talk to Jake about football much, honestly. We
Right.
just kind of talked to him about culture and the things were going on, but we didn't really talk about football.
yeah. Well, that speaking of Jake, he now has followed in your footsteps, and he is now a head coach, correct? A head high school football coach in the state of South Carolina.
Yeah, he's the head
Um,
coach at Nations Ford up in Fort Mill.
so, what kind of advice did you give him as he was getting into the profession, and how much time do you spend just talking to him, game planning, or different things, maybe film breakdown with him on a weekly basis?
Well, Jesse and Keith, not only is he the coach, but his brother Schuler is an OC back at Burns High School, and he was a coach at Coastal Carolina and Charleston Southern, and Troy, and he's been around. So he's now the OC at Burns. So Jake's coaching, Schuler's coaching, and then my oldest son Chase is director of performance at Rutgers University. So
Wow, that's awesome.
he
Wow.
brings in his tidbits of coaching when we get the family text going. So we all talk about ball.
Yeah,
We all talk about details. What was cool this spring is Jake brought his staff up. He had a 10-member staff, came up and hung out with us in Nashville and got to watch us practice. He got to take his staff to Vanderbilt to watch practice. So that's been awesome. Just being able to share the details of what we're doing. And honestly, we just try to tell them as a father to get good at something.
yeah,
As a young coach, my head coach came by practice one day and said, "Hey, man, you're trying to do too much." At that time, I was trying to run the option. I was trying to run outside zone, inside zone. And he said, "Hey, get good at something." He said, "Why not just try to throw the ball better than anybody in the state?" And that's what we did. And that's kind of, I've taken on that persona. Like, we're going to try to throw the ball every down, try to be good at passing the ball. So that's what I've tried to do with my boys who are in coaching is get good at something, whatever it
Mm-hmm.
may be. Set your personnel around it, set your mindset around it, and get good at something. And be detailed. Paint every line for 7-on-7. Paint every line when you paint the field. Don't skip a line. Just try to be detailed in what you're doing. Your players will appreciate it. Your staff will appreciate it. That's kind of what I've tried to teach my kids, and just try to basically do everything you can for those things, and I think it'll fall into place.
that's great advice.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Hey, Coach, tell us about a game that you'll never forget, and not necessarily one that you won, just a game that you've coached or been a part of that just sticks out with you.
You know, I was asked that a few weeks ago, and I've been thinking about it. I think there's several. I don't think there's just one. I think I've got to go back to Burns High School, 2002. We played Evangel Christian. We had a team to drop us a couple weeks before the season, and we didn't have a game, and put it on the internet. And Evangel Christian quarterback John David Booty, you probably heard of that name, and
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I
running
remember
back
that.
named
Yeah.
Jacob Hester. So I told our touchdown
Golly.
club, which would be like your booster club nowadays, I told them that next Monday, we're going to go to Evangel Christian down in Louisiana and play. And I remember a parent held his hand up and said, "Coach, our players will get killed. They've got Jacob Hester and John David Booty on that team. They had won maybe 8 state championships in a row. They had a 45-game win streak. They'd never lost a game at home." And I said, "Guys, we're going to play. Let's not worry about it." Anyway, we got beat, but we had them 14-7 in the fourth quarter. I think supposedly one of the first times they ever had a law. They were down in the fourth quarter, but they ended up beating us. But I think that game is one. I think Carolina versus Tennessee in Knoxville in 17. The last minute win that we had, and then I think us playing Belgrades on ESPN in '06 maybe. We played on ESPN on a Saturday, man. It was like 99 degrees. The devil was out there smoking cigars. It was hot as fire. Um, Gaffney State Championship game 2011, phenomenal. Schuler was the quarterback, my son. We got to beat O'Quinshaw Davis down there at Clemson. Maybe the Outback Bowl versus Michigan. We was playing the number one defense in the country with Don Brown as coordinator. Jake was Outback player of the game, the MVP. Maybe one more. This one's got a little bit of a series here, but no one. We had probably one of our best teams. We played in a monsoon. We played Conway High School in the semifinal game, and it was raining at 4 o'clock. And I tried to cancel the game. High school league said I couldn't. They said the team was already there. I think Chuck Jordan had already worked with the high school league on making sure that we wasn't going to cancel. They were a wishbone team. They were a running team. Water on the field this deep, Jesse.
Okay? Oh, my gosh.
Cancel the game. We had a field goal block. They ran a field goal back. That's their touchdown they scored to win the game. That was in 01.
Oh.
We lost that game. But we beat them in 02 and 03. So a little bit of redemption from that rain game from Conway there. I think those are probably the top games I remember. But there's several more, man. I've coached for 38 years, so I hope I didn't miss one that somebody's listening to. Maybe Spartanburg in 98 at Spartanburg. We hadn't won in Spartanburg for 20 years. We beat them in overtime. We went unbalanced and ran the power for a winning touchdown. Shoot, I could go on, man, if you got more time.
Hey, Coach, you rattle off as many as you want to. I'm enjoying listening to
one more, especially now that I'm in Tennessee. I rub it into these Tennessee people. 2016, we got a freshman quarterback named Jake Bentley, and we beat Tennessee at Carolina. I know the Tennessee fans don't want to hear that one.
So Keith and I are both big Tennessee fans. We stay partial. We're just big college football fans. We stay partial on the podcast.
You already said you're Tennessee fans. So
well, anyway.
As impartial as we can.
Yeah, as partial as we can. In doing and I'm glad you mentioned that because I forgot to add it to the list because I wanted to bring it up, but you brought it up. Doing my show notes and everything, I'm talking to my cousin of mine who that's who I talk most of my football to. And we're talking about Jake. And I said, I was like, did you realize that his first start, now correct me if I'm wrong on this, Coach, but his first start as quarterback at South Carolina was the Tennessee game. Is that correct? Am I wrong on that?
I think it was because he played.
He was a red shirt, right?
UMass, but he played against. That was his first win as a starting quarterback, and I think y'all were like top 10. I don't remember.
We were. And, that was
scared about him rushing the quarterback pretty much.
That 2016 season, which we are, I guess we should talk about it. We're on the 10-year reunion of that. We might as well talk about it.
Let's do it. I love it.
It was a wild time, I tell you. Just small tidbit. My wife's not a football. I've been coaching football the entire time that she and I have been together. I started, I was playing football and then got into coaching. You would think as much time as she spent around the game of football, she would be about football. She's not about football. But anyway, we got married on September 24th.
Oh no.
2016. Okay, now if you remember, this was Tennessee, Florida. Coach, we got married in Knoxville at the Foundry, which is like a block or two away from Neyland Stadium.
I know what that is.
And we got married in the middle of the second quarter of that game. Traffic was awful. But I still say
married during football season, the first problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. But you know how it is with women. You do what they say. You do what they say. But I will say, I've said forever, we broke the streak because it had been like 2004, I think, was the last time we had beaten Florida. And so that day we broke the streak. College game day was there. The entire wedding party night, we went to the college game day that morning. It was a great time. But yeah, the 2016 season, I'll never forget that. And I definitely won't forget South Carolina. That one was tough. We had an outside shot at the SEC championship game, and then you guys ruined it for us, you and Jake. But
That was
it's
a great
okay.
win.
That's all right.
Definitely a top win for me and the Gamecocks. That was big.
Absolutely. Coach, so who are some of the best coaches? And I know you mentioned some that you already worked with, but who are some of the best coaches, any position or any level, that you worked with, and maybe what specific things did they do that made them exceptional leaders and coaches?
You know, kind of like those top victories, those top wins. You kind of got to make a list. You can't just pick
Yeah.
one because
No, I
there's so many
understand.
guys I've worked with with guys that have been hired around different coaches and different staffs. But I could give you a few of them. I would say Eric Wolford at LSU now. He's with me at South Carolina. I was kind of tell you where they are now. But he was an O-line coach I worked with as a tight ends, running backs coach, and just the way he can seal protections, the way he
Yeah.
identifies protections would be a thing I learned the most from him. Coleman Hutzler, special teams coordinator when we were at South Carolina. I think he's at Auburn now. Detailed, a great teacher of the game in special teams. Mike Bobo, enough is not said about that guy, and that dude is a
Yeah.
ball
Yeah.
coach. Obviously, his dad. I know his dad. My best friend Alan Rodemaker worked with him, and Mike Bobo is without a doubt the best football coach I've worked with. Period. He's a football coach. He's a football junkie. His play design answers I've learned so much from. David Feely, our strength coach that worked with us at South Carolina, he's now at Duke, a master technician. Joe Cox, tight ends coach, receiver guy, master teacher as well. Thomas Brown, just being in the same room with him, first of all, a great professional. I would say that he was probably one of the best, purest professionals I've ever been around. I would say Charlie Weiss probably helped me understand spatial awareness better than anybody. As y'all know, his dad, and just he understands space as good as any coach I've been around. And I'd say Tim Horton, man, I could keep going. Tim Horton was with me at Auburn. He's probably got acres in heaven, guys. This guy, you never think a guy's perfect, but I'm not sure I've ever seen the guy, do something wrong, do something that wasn't right or wasn't in the proper etiquette. And there's so many guys. I could keep going if you ask me questions, but there's so many other guys that just helped me so much to be a better coach, to be a better husband, to be a better person, because I've been around some
Yeah.
really, really good ones, man. Kurt Roper, a phenomenal football coach. Just so many good ones overall. I could just go on and on.
Yeah. One thing too, I'm talking, I guess, from a player perspective more than anything, but like there are some coaches I feel like that stick in your mind that not necessarily X's and O's, but just like what they can teach you beyond the game of football.
Mm-hmm.
And I can hear that in the way you're talking about them. I just have a couple more questions. I'll ask you one more, then I'll let Keith if he has anything. I got two here for you, but this first one's a two-parter. One, the game of football, the game of college football has changed so much with the transfer portal and NIL and the conference realignment. One, do you think those are all good things or negative things for college football? And two, do you see yourself getting back into college football at any point, or are you content with finishing your career at the high school level?
Well, to answer the question about NIL and transfer portal realignment, first of all, been lots of benefits of that. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so I think first of all we got to think about the positives. There's so
Uh,
many benefits. I just think about my own boys. Chase was a starting quarterback against UConn on a Thursday night on ESPN, and he throws for 300 yards as a freshman.
that's
You know,
awesome.
he takes the starting quarterback out, and he's the starter as a freshman. I just wonder how much money he would have made.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
Quarterback at Rutgers. My boys missed out on that, so I get it. And
yeah,
NIL has been great for our game and our young people. I think we need some guardrails, though, guys.
I
Okay,
agree.
I know
100%.
it sounds cliche, but
Absolutely
we've
agree.
got to get some guardrails. Okay, it's going to be unsustainable. It's just too much right now. Okay,
Yeah.
it's just too much. Meaning overall, I'm glad the boys are getting money. It's
Yes.
awesome. I mean, we've got guys that are getting big offers now, and they're in the 10th grade, like life changing money. I think it's awesome, but let's put some guardrails up. The transfer portal the same way. There just needs to be some barriers
Yeah.
uh, of some sort, um, just
Hard
the
barriers.
coaching
Yes.
fraternity and the game itself. Our boosters, they want to support the team and they want to kind of keep the same team. I mean, we're bringing in 50 new players every year. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It just seems to be some guardrails. Realignment. Muschamp told us back years ago in a staff meeting, the SEC was going to pull away, and he's on the edge of being right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, it's coming. It's definitely
Oh
coming.
yeah.
What happened here recently with this gambling thing, you and I both know that's wrong. I mean, I
Oh yeah.
don't think that's
Absolutely.
debatable, right? Let's not try
Yeah.
to go into what's right or wrong. That's wrong,
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to make teams separate and
Mm-hmm.
go form their own deal, and you can't blame them.
No.
Um, all in all, there's been some cost to some of this stuff, but there's benefits to it too. I just think we need to get some management to it all. Let's don't lose what we've had in our great game that's done a lot for us and a
Yeah.
lot for our families. Let's be smart and get this thing reined in before we lose control of it. And
Uh,
also, it's affecting our other sports too.
Mm-hmm.
yes.
Let's don't lose the fact that we're going to lose some golf scholarships, some tennis scholarships
Hmm.
from all of this money getting
Mm-hmm.
ramsacked. So let's do a better job managing our athletics so we can still be pure and go back and do what we were called to do, and that's be a student athlete. That's kind of been lost in the shuffle a little bit,
I
Mm-hmm.
agree.
and it's kind of sad because guys like me would have probably just went to school and played ball. Let's just be honest. I didn't go to school to go to school as much. Football
Yeah.
was the vehicle for me, and now I've learned my lesson through it because I got a degree from it. So let's be
Right.
honest. But I wonder what we're doing right now with being the student athlete. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
not sure I got the answers either now. I'm not saying that, but I think we need to really dive into it and get a better control of it. Okay.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree 100%. Keith, do you have anything? If not, I'm going to move on to my next one.
He's answered all my stuff, brother.
Okay. So coach, we've talked about all your time in college. I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about you and BGA because you were a South Carolina native. You coached high school football, played college football, all inside the state of South Carolina. How exactly how did Tennessee come about to be a landing spot, and why BGA?
Well, I had my years at USF and UCF, so I was living in sunny Florida. Living in sunny Florida, and you can retire. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
But I think what happened to me though, Jesse, I can only do so much yard work. I could only fish so much. I think I'm a good fisherman.
Yeah.
But in Florida it rains a good bit, so it's raining. You get cut off of fishing that day, and I was driving my wife crazy. So she said, "Well, you got to do something." I needed a plan, and honestly, I'd retired without a plan, and that's not a good thing. So this job was open, and Trey Meyer, who's a buddy of mine from South Carolina, he and his dad and our good friends, he called me and said he was on the committee for the head coaching job, and he wanted me to look into it. I looked into it, was offered the job, and they have some resources. They're going to allow me to bring him on staff. I said, shoot, why not do it? Another thing that we haven't talked about is I love being a quarterback coach. I love being a play designer. I love that, and I love calling plays. So I got to do that again, or I get to do that again, and I get to do it maybe at the end of my career. Obviously, I'm at an age where, you've got to make a decision of what you want to do, rather what others want you to do. And I like coaching quarterbacks and calling plays. So this is where I could do it, and I feel like I do a good job at it, and I can hire staff that can believe in everything that we want to teach. And BGA gave me that opportunity, and it's been a great thing since I took this job. My wife loves country music, so that works out good. We can go out and see live music about every night, and it's a draw for my kids. You guys my age learn that you get these grandkids, you got to get these in-laws on your side,
Oh yeah.
and you got to get the in-laws on your side to have an attractive area in Nashville somewhere the kids like to come to. So I'm in
Oh
good
yeah.
shape.
Absolutely.
Nashville is happening. Well, so what can you tell us about, obviously you guys just won the state championship this past December. Congratulations, by the way, on
Thank you.
that. What can you say about the outlook for 2026?
We just had a great practice. I'm sweaty. I hope don't look too bad here,
No,
but we had a great practice this morning. Our kids do everything we ask them to do, Jesse. Keith, you asked 70 kids, 65 kids to come into practice 7 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock every day. These kids do it. We do a lot of character training. We do a lot of off the field type stuff too with them. Um, and these kids respond well, and they've responded well since the day we got here. Now, when we got here, we only had 5 kids at our first workout. We had 13 at our second workout. So it's been a process, but the players have bought into what we do. Okay, offense, defense, special teams, and our character model. And I can't. I don't know if I leave the field and not feel good about how these kids respond. Um, and they do everything we ask them to do. I'm really proud of them. We've got a good team coming back. We only have 13 seniors, and some of them don't really start. So we've got a young team, and but we've got a lot of talent, man. We've got some really, really good players. We've got a lot of players with D1 offers. We got some players with FCS offers, and we got some kids with, they're still getting looks. So we got some talent. Um, they work hard in the weight room. They do everything we ask them to do. They're smart, and honestly, we don't have any character issues. It's a cool job. This place has really good culture.
that's awesome. I'd love to come down and visit one day and just kind of check out the campus and the stadium and see a practice maybe or something. I don't really know a whole lot about BGA. The only thing I know about Battleground Academy is that was the team that my high school alma mater played in the state championship in 1992. Which, when you look at the grand scheme of things now, that seems way far fetched and crazy to think about, because they are now a double A school. But high school football in the state of Tennessee has changed a lot since then. But Coach, one last thing, and we'll let you go. I know you got a lot of things on your plate. We end every episode, every time we do Keith and I do a show, we have what we call 5 and 5. So we do a top 5 list in what usually a 5-minute window. Your topic, what have been the top 5, and you've probably already talked about a few of them, that's okay, but what have been the top 5 moments of your coaching career in no particular order?
Whew. Well, you've given me some good ones about lists. All right, so I got 5 minutes to get as many as we can here. I'd
Yeah,
say, winning those 50 something games at Burns. We had 50 game win streak at home. It was cool to see what was happening there. At PC, we beat Coastal Carolina at home. Excuse me, at their place in overtime. We had the first Big South victory at VMI. That was a big one. I would say the 4 in a row. We won 4 state championships in a row at Burns. That's a
yeah,
highlight.
no
The
doubt.
Outback victory was phenomenal. The Outback Bowl game against Michigan. Um, I would say the 2 state championships here, man, getting to go to 2 state championships the 2 years I've been here, and then
Yeah,
obviously winning it this year, 61-27.
yeah,
Phenomenal game. Um, probably there's so many others. Um, uh, the big win down at we played into '05. We played Richland Northeast, who had a bunch of D1 players in the state championship game. I think we beat them like 50 something to 10 or something, 48-10. I'm not sure the exact score, but
Wow.
we beat them pretty good. They were supposed to be really good, and that was a big win. Beating Montgomery Bell up in the Clinic Bowl up in Nashville in '05, that was a big win. Cincinnati Moeller, my 100th win, we beat Cincinnati Moeller up in Cincinnati Stadium. That was a big one. Um, Shoot, man, I'm trying to think of things at USF. We had some big wins there. UCF had some fun. Auburn, man, there were so many at Auburn. Maybe the game beating LSU at home, that was probably the loudest I've ever
yeah,
I've
Hmm.
ever seen a stadium beating LSU there at Auburn. I tell you a good one, beating Georgia at the Hedges. and smoking cigars in the locker room. That was a big one.
That's awesome. That's a
Absolutely.
cool
At
moment.
Georgia. So they've been so many, man. I've just been
Yeah.
blessed about it. I could go on, but that might take up to 5 minutes. Sorry.
No, you're fine, Coach. Listen, I could sit here and talk to you all day. I've enjoyed having you. We're super thankful for you to take the time out of your day to come in here and talk with us. I don't think I have anything else. If you don't have any, do you have anything, Keith?
No, I've enjoyed every minute of this, Coach. Thank you for being with us.
Yeah, thank you, man.
And good luck on this next season. We'll be looking
Absolutely.
forward to. We'll be checking your scores. Absolutely.
Yeah,